What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Fresh Review. Now you're new to the channel. What we do here, review each and every game of the 2024 NFL season. Right now, this is our Week 16 review. In the background, you guys will be watching the game of the week. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Washington Commanders. We're going to start this review off with the Thursday night football game. The Denver Broncos take on the Los Angeles Chargers. And this was a divisional matchup with a lot of playoff implications on the line. The Chargers in at 8 wins, the Broncos in at 9. If either of these teams get to 10, they will likely make their way into the AFC playoffs. 10-7 should get you in. Denver got a tough schedule coming up, though. They got the Chargers this week, the Bengals, then the Chiefs. So, they dropped this game. But Bo Nix has another solid game here. 263 passing yards, 2 passing TDs. They dropped this game. They got to beat the Bengals next week. They eliminate the Bengals and likely clinch the playoff spot there. If they lose that game, they got to hope that Kansas City rests some starters in the final week because, granted, they did play KC tough last time, but KC's playing for that one seed and Buffalo is hot on their tail. I do see KC winning that game, but Audric Estime leads the win in the backfield here, 9 carries, 48 yards, and a rushing TD. You never know what running back's going to get the bulk of the workload for this Denver Broncos offense. And then receiving wise, Marvin Mims leads the way with 3 catches, 62 yards. So a solid game there by the Broncos, but it wasn't enough. The final score is 27-34. The Chargers, the team that put up 34 points, Justin Herbert, 284 passing yards, 2 passing TDs as well. He also threw an interception, but he had a solid game. Both these quarterbacks played really well this game. Gus Edwards led the way for them, 14 carries, 68 yards, and 2 TDs. And Lat McConkey leads the way again with 6 catches, 87 yards. So I thought this game was really good. Some entertaining plays, had a divisional matchup, but the Broncos took an early 2-possession lead, then the Chargers took a 2-possession lead, and the Broncos got a field goal late to make it 1 score, tried to go for an onside kick, doesn't get it, and that's how the cookie crumbles. I'm giving this game a really good score of 78 out of 100. Now we're going over to their AFC rival, the Kansas City Chiefs. They took on the Houston Texans on the Saturday night game. And this schedule was brutal, not just for the Texans, but for all the teams that played on Saturday night, because they got to play again on Wednesday. So another short week coming up. But the Texans and the Chiefs clash here in a battle between division leaders. And the Chiefs win this game 27-19. Mahomes, 260 passing yards, a passing TD, solid game here. And then you look at the rushing game. Kareem Hunt leads the way. 11 carries, 55 rushing yards, and a rushing TD, so he gets another TD. Isaiah Pacheco only 9 carries for 26 yards. Mahomes gets the other rushing TD, 5 carries, 33 yards. So I don't know if they're doing it on a case-by-case basis with Pacheco and Kareem Hunt because it seems like it's alternating on who's the lead back. But you go look at the receiving wise. Xavier Worthy, their rookie wideout, leads the way, 7 catches, 65 yards, and gets the rushing TD as well. So Worthy is improving week by week. Man, Hollywood Brown returns here with 5 catches, 45 yards. So it's great to see the Chiefs getting all their wideouts back with the exception of Rashee Rice. Now we go over to the Houston Texans, who unfortunately lost a wide receiver here. Tank Dell had 6 catches, 98 yards, and a TD. He's been playing great ever since Stephon Diggs went down. He's been improving week by week. Had a great rookie season. Unfortunately, broke his leg there in the rookie season while he was blocking. Then in the offseason, he got shot. He recovers from all that just to get a TD catch here and injure himself in the process. Tears up his knee. Not only he's out for the rest of this season, there's a good chance he might miss all of next season. So you hate to see that for Tank Dell, such a young, promising young player. But he goes down. Nico Collins right there behind him, though. Nico finished with 7 catches for 60 yards. And with it just being Nico Collins, you're looking to see if Dalton Schultz can step up. He had a decent game here, 5 catches, 45 yards, and a TD. Or maybe they can get some production out of their younger player, in John Mechie, who also overcame a lot, leukemia and a torn ACL to start his career. Then Robert Woods, maybe the veteran, can produce. But the Texans are not looking that great, at least with how they start the season. CJ Stroud here, 2 interceptions again this game, had 2 passing TDs as well, and threw for 244 yards. The Chiefs won this game 27-19. That was a solid game, though. I'm giving a good score of 74 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens, and this game was for the division league. So the last time these teams played, the Steelers won. Now the Steelers are 10-4 going into this game. They're going on the road to Baltimore. The Ravens are 9-5 going into this game. If they win, they will be tied for record, but the Ravens will have the slight advantage. in the tiebreaker, so they'd be the division leader. And the Ravens do win this game. They handle it fairly easy. Lamar Jackson, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is like the first interception he threw all year that really his fault. You go look at the rushing game. Derrick Henry ran all over these boys. 24 carries, 162 rushing yards. Didn't get a rushing TD, but that's okay. And then Zay Flowers led the way for these guys, receiving wise, 5 catches, 100 yards. And then both their tight ends, Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, get a TD here. So good game for them. Now we go look at the Steelers. Russell Wilson threw for 217 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, and had 1 interception. Unfortunately, they were only down by 7 when he threw that interception, and it was a pick 6 to Marlon Humphrey. That gave the Ravens a 14-point lead and effectively ended the game. Without George Pickens, this offense hasn't been looking too good. I know some Steelers fans are calling for Justin Fields to come back. I think it's too early for that. I know the Steelers are sliding right now, and they play the Chiefs next week, so they might lose 3 in a row. But again, it's a tough schedule. I'm not hitting the panic button yet. Rushing wise, though, Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris do okay. They both average 4 yards per carry and get 90 total rushing yards. But no George Pickens. The offense kind of struggled. Calvin Austin led the way here. He had a 44-yard catch, but other than that, not much else. Perhaps if Russ does a little bit better ball, Austin's able to catch that and keep running. But the final score is 34-17. Thought it was a good game between the divisional rivals until that pick 6 happened. I'm giving an above average score of 62 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the New York Giants take on the Atlanta Falcons. And the Falcons are fighting for that NFC South spot, and they're potentially fighting for a wild card spot, so this is a must-win game for them. They make the switch to Michael Penix, so this is Michael Penix's first start. So much-needed switch because Kirk Cousins has been egregious for the past few weeks. His fall from grace needs to be studied. It made no sense how this man went from my cover athlete in week 5, 500 passing yards, and then the same season, this man's going a full month and not throwing 500 passing yards about near. Wow. But Michael Penix, first game starting. I know the box score doesn't show anything too crazy, but 202 passing yards, 0 TDs, 1 interception. The interception wasn't his fault. It hit Kyle Pitts in the hands, but Kyle Pitts couldn't corral it, and then falls right into the hands of a defensive player. So that's how he threw the interception. It's right before halftime, so they could have got points there, but they won this game 34-7 regardless. Bijan Robinson, 2 rushing TDs, 94 rushing yards on the ground, so solid game there by Bijan. Darnell Mooney, 5 catches, 82 yards. So Darnell Mooney looking like the Darnell Mooney from prior to this season. Well, to the early parts of this season when Kirk Cousins was dealing. Darnell Mooney's back in the bag. And Drake London also has a decent game here. 5 catches, 59 yards. Now we got to look at the Giants on the flip side. Drew Lock, 1 passing TD, 2 interceptions. I mean, it's a Drew Lock game. You're not going to expect anything good here. 210 passing yards. Tyrone Tracy leads the way on the ground, 7 carries, 26 yards. I mean, the Giants just don't get anything going all game long, especially on the ground because they're down most of the game, so you got to air it out. Malik Neighbors, though, another decent game for the rookie, 7 catches, 68 yards, and Rondell Robinson, 7 catches, 62 yards. Tyrone Tracy, though, he did get the 1 TD for him as a receiving TD, 4 catches, 43 yards. So Tyrone Tracy, I think, is a dynamic 2-way running back where he can get stuff going on the ground, but I think he really shines since he's a former wide receiver in the receiving department. I'm curious to see if they draft somebody in the running back class coming up this year. I know they definitely got to go quarterback. They're 2-13. There's a good chance they get the number 1 pick. Do they go Shedeur Sanders or do they go Cam Ward? That'd be a big decision for them. But I mean, this game here, Drew Lock even had a fumble that they lost, so 3 turnovers for Drew Lock. I thought this game was awful. I'm giving it a 19 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Detroit Lions take on the Chicago Bears. And the Lions were up all of this game, and the game was pretty much over. But what do the Lions do? They do a trick play where they pretend like Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs fall down, they bobble the snap and all that. No, they do that so the safeties and linebackers can inch forward, come up, and leave Sam Laporta wide open in the end zone. I'm like, this man Ben Johnson is either auditioning for the Chicago Bears head coaching job, or this man got so many tricks up his sleeve. He doesn't even care about showing them when the game's already over. They're up multiple TDs already. This is just front running to the max. I'm actually very concerned about this Lion team that advances to 13-2. They got playmakers everywhere. The Lions are looking like a legitimate threat. Definitely a Super Bowl contender here. Jared Goff, 336 passing yards, 3 passing TDs, 0 interception. He got to be in the MVP conversation. Jahmyr Gibbs filling in. Well, not really filling in. There's no David Montgomery, so he's getting a larger workload here. 23 carries, 109 rushing yards, and a rushing TD for him. He also have 45 receiving yards, so over 150 total yards. Then Jameson Williams burnt everybody on the defense for an 82-yard TD bomb. He finished with 5 catches, 143 receiving yards, and receiving TD. You count his rushing yards in there. He had 150 total yards as well. St. Brown, 6 catches, 70 receiving yards in the TD. I mean, the Lions are just doing whatever they want here now. Definitely a threat. But we got to look at the flip side. Chicago Bears still on a mean losing streak. I believe it's 9 straight now. I believe they're 4-2. And they just haven't been able to recover since that Hail Mary. They've been in a lot of games where they had a chance to win but collapsed. This game, they were not in it. It was over early and often. Caleb Williams, though, 334 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, 0 interceptions again. This man's not thrown an interception in like 250 passing attempts. No exaggeration. Maybe even more. So, over 300 passing yards. Even led the team in rushing at 6 carries, 34 yards. DeAndre Swift had 9 carries for only 20. And, it's a decent game here for Caleb. He only got sacked twice, but a lot of these yards come in garbage time. Game's already over. Who cares by then? But Keenan Allen leads the way for this team. 9 catches, 141 yards, and a receiving TD for him. And Rumba Doomsday and DJ Moore also had solid games. So the three-headed monster stuff at wideout is working, but they do need a better O-line. Even though Caleb only got sacked twice this game, for the year, he's one of the most sacked quarterbacks. He also did fumble, though, right? So, although he's not throwing interceptions, he fumbled twice this game, and they did lose one of them. So, there are some turnovers there. But they lose 17-34. Detroit advances 13-2. And I thought this game was above average because it's very entertaining with the plays and all that. I'm going to give it a 60 out of 100. Then we go to our next game, which is another AFC North rivalry. It's the Cleveland Browns take on the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals, they were 4-8 on the brink of probably not making the playoffs. They had to win out. They are on a 3-game win streak, so they're trying to win out. They will play the Broncos next week. That could be a huge game for playoff implications on their quest to win out and try to sneak in at 9-8. Joe Burrow, he doesn't go for 300 passing yards and 3 TDs, so the streak ends there, but he does get you 3 TDs on 252 passing yards. Chase Brown leads the one on the ground, 18 carries, 91 rushing yards. I've been really impressed with Chase Brown, his ability to take this workhorse load ever since Zach Moss been out. And, I knew he was a solid running back coming out of Illinois. I liked him a lot. But he also got the pass catching chops. He got the speed. Liked him a lot, but he's filling in perfectly. It looks like he could be a number 1 running back in this league. Now we look at Jamar Chase, the other Chase for Cincinnati. 6 catches, 97 yards, and a TD for him. And then T. Higgins, 8 catches, 58 yards, and a TD for him. And Andre Yoshivas, 3 catches, 53 yards, and a TD for him. So the Bengals starting 3 wide receivers all get a TD this game. Solid game for them. And now we go look at the Cleveland Browns on the flip side. Dorian Thomas-Robinson gets to start this game. They bench Jameis Winston. They want to see what DTR can do. He doesn't do much. He goes for 157 passing yards on 2 interceptions, 20 for 34 passing, so 4.6 yards per attempt. He's a check down merchant. I will not lie to you. David Njoku, though, 8 catches, 66 yards. He led the way for them. Jerome Ford was their second leading wide receiver. Pass catcher, I should say. 5 catches, 39 yards for him. Jerry Jeudy and Elijah Moore looked amazing with Jameis Winston at quarterback. They only had 2 catches for 20 and 21 yards this game. Now we go look at Jerome Ford on the ground, though. 11 carries, 92 yards, and a rushing TD. So Ford had a really good game here. He broke a 66-yard TD run down the right sideline. That was a great run by him. He's filling in for Nick Chubb, who got injured again. He's out for the year with a broken foot. So Jerome Ford, when he's been filling in for Nick Chubb, has been looking solid. I don't think they will re-sign Nick Chubb. They might let him go. You hate to see it with Nick Chubb. He's been a great running back for this organization for so long, but I think the Browns let Nick Chubb go. I don't think Jerome Ford, unlike Chase Brown, has shown that he can be that lead workhorse running back because they just don't trust him enough to get 15-plus carries on a week-in, week-out basis. But I'm curious to see who they draft in the draft coming up. They are 3-12. So I'm curious to see who they draft. Do they draft a running back in the second round? Do they draft a quarterback? Because Jameis Winston, they just benched. They want to see what DTR could do. He can't do much. Deshaun Watson tore his Achilles. We don't know he'd be back ready for the start of next season. I know he got that horrible contract, but the fans did boo this man out of the stadium last time, even when he got injured. Do you go back to Deshaun Watson? I don't know what the Browns will do, but they got a lot of planning to do. Could DTR is net the answer? I'm giving this game a really bad score, 23 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Tennessee Titans take on the Indianapolis Colts. And what a game this was. Jonathan Taylor, after dropping the ball at the goal line like a noob, he comes back this week and was a potential cover athlete candidate, but I decided to give it to Jayden Daniels here. Jonathan Taylor, 29 carries, 218 rushing yards, 3 rushing TDs, including a TD run he broke for 70 yards down the right sideline. Great game here by Jonathan Taylor. They needed him this game, and they got him. Now, Anthony Richardson, they didn't rely on him to pass too much. They had 50 carries this game to 11 of Anthony Richardson's passing attempts. Anthony Richardson, 7 for 11 completions for attempts. Then 131 passing yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. But on the ground, he gets you 9 carries, 70 rushing yards, and a rushing TD. So he's showing you, what we always knew. He's dynamic with his legs. The question is, can he pass, right? And we're going to have to see that next year because the Colts are 7-8, so they got the same record as the Bengals, and they might have the slight tiebreaker over the Bengals. But I just don't think the Colts will make the playoffs. Does that make sense? And if they do, I think they get first rounded. I'm not even sure they should want to make the playoffs. I think missing out the playoffs, getting an earlier pick, and then building and seeing what AR could do. Maybe you might be able to trade AR. I'm not sure what they can do here, but AR, a solid game rushing wise. The question is, can he get that passing down? He had a lot to work on in the offseason. But now we look at Josh Downs, who's the team's leading receiver this game. He had 3 catches, 61 receiving yards, and he had that 1 TD for the Colts receiving TD. Now, the Colts were up 38-7 in this game, and the Titans made it 38-30. So the Titans showed some heart, nearly completed the comeback, but they did fall up short. Mason Rudolph, 252 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, 3 interceptions. So Mason Rudolph doing Mason Rudolph-like things. Tyjae Spears, though, 2 rushing TDs for him. And then Chig Okonkwo leads the way here with 81 receiving yards and 9 catches. The infinite money glitch, Nick Westbrook-Akine. He's back making you money, and you continue to bet on this man to get a TD. He gets another TD here. And Calvin Ridley got the other receiving TD for the Titans. He had 3 catches, 78 yards on the game in that receiving TD. So, I thought this game was well above average because the Titans really did start making it very interesting. I'm giving it a 66 out of 100. Now, I'm going on to our next game, which is the LA Rams take on the New York Jets, and the Jets are doing what the Jets do. That is go entire half without scoring. Yep, they scored a TD at the end of the first quarter, got a field goal at the end of the second quarter, and then they don't score in the entire second half. So once you take the lead on them, they just don't score anymore. Aaron Rodgers used to be the comeback king. Now, he just goes out there and just takes it. I don't know what happens. But Aaron Rodgers finished the game with 256 passing yards and a passing TD. That passing TD went to his number 1 target, Devontae Adams, who finished with 7 catches, 68 receiving yards, and a TD. Garrett Wilson was right behind him with 6 catches for 54 yards. Breece Hall, 14 carries, 52 rushing yards, 38 receiving yards for Breece Hall. Aaron Rodgers lost a fumble this game. Xavier Gibson also lost a fumble. That was on punt return, but that's at the very end of the game, so who even cared about that? It was 19-9, 2-possession game with 30 seconds left. Who cares? Matthew Stafford, the other quarterback on the flip side, 110 passing yards, 1 passing TD, 1 interception. Half of those yards go to Puka, who finished with 8 catches, 56 receiving yards. His longest was a 27-yard catch, so you take over that 1 catch, 7 catches for 29 yards. A whole lot of dinking and dunking. They hit Puka on a whole lot of bubble screens and quick screens and all types of stuff to get Puka the ball early and often. What Cooper Kupp used to get, Cooper Kupp, you're now the side chick. He finished with 3 catches, 24 yards, and you got to go downfield for all his catches. He gets nothing easy behind the line of scrimmage anymore. You hate to see the Triple Crown. We're going to get treated like this. But Kyron Williams, they just rely on the run game here. 23 carries, 122 rushing yards, and a rushing TD there for him. And the Rams won this game 19-9. Very uneventful game. It wasn't a blowout or anything, but nothing really happens. It's well below average. I'm giving it a 31 out of 100. Rams needed to win this one, and they did. Now on to our next game, the game you see in the background. The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Washington Commanders. A game the Eagles need to win. They want to continue fighting for that 1 seed. A game the Commanders need to win if they want to have a chance to get the NFC East title. but mainly to get the wild card spot that they're really fine for. And the Commanders come back and they win this game 36-33. Jayden Daniels is going to start there. 5 passing TDs. He did throw for 2 interceptions, but when they needed him most, he got the game-winning drive, marched his team down the field. They also picked up the 2-point conversion to make it so they weren't only up by 1, they went up by 3. And they got that game-winning TD with 6 seconds left, so the game was effectively over, so they got it pretty much a walk-off. But he finished 258 passing yards, 5 TDs, 2 interceptions, like I said. Also led the team on the ground rushing-wise. He had 9 carries, 81 rushing yards. Now, Brian Robinson, no Austin Eckler. Remember, he's out for a concussion. He might come back at the end of the season. Who knows? But Brian Robinson, 10 carries, 24 rushing yards here. He fumbled twice. They lost both of those fumbles. So did Diami Brown. So the Eagles' defense generated 5 turnovers. It still wasn't enough. Olamide Zaccheaus led the way for this team, the Washington Commanders. 5 catches, 70 yards, and 2 receiving TDs. And then Terry McLaurin gets another TD as well. So Terry McLaurin's having a career year. It continues. He had 5 catches, 60 yards, and a receiving TD. Jamison Crowder got the other 2 TDs, including the game winner TD. He had 2 catches, 15 yards, and both of those were for touchdowns. Now we go look at the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts got injured in this game. He was out for a concussion. Kenny Pickett filled in. 14 for 24. Kenny Pickett went 1 passing TD, 1 interception. He didn't do awful, but he's not Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts picked up 41 rushing yards on the ground before he got hurt. Saquon Barkley had 150 rushing yards, including a long run he broke for 68 yards. He had 2 rushing TDs. But this offense is night and day when it's Jalen Hurts. And I think, I could be a biased Eagle fan, but Hurts is there. We won this game easily because we got the 5 turnovers, but we didn't capitalize. We only had 6 points off of those turnovers. With Hurts, we're able to melt the clock. We're going to get more points off of those turnovers. We're going to limit the Commanders' possession. Granted, we had a great chance to win the game. Devontae Smith dropped a pass that would have gave us a first down and gave us more time to melt more clock and pretty much almost be nailed down territory. But Devontae Smith 6 catches, 51 yards in that drop, which did hurt. A.J. Brown 8 catches, 97 receiving yards and a TD. So a game we needed to win to fight for that 1 seed. We lose this game. It was like we're out of there because the Vikings and the Lions will be the teams that will most likely be fine for that in week 18. So it looks like we will be the 2 seed. Most likely we'll win one more game. We'll clinch the 2 seed, which is great. It's okay. We had to play in the first round. We get home field advantage for most of the playoffs, and the Lions lose or the Vikings lose. Whoever is at 1 seed, I expect for it to be the Lions. If they lose, we could get home field advantage all the way throughout. We take care of business. So, spectacular game, though. 99 out of 100. One of the best games of the year. It will be one of the games when I do my top 25 games of the year at the end of the season. It will be one of them, without a doubt. What a game this was. Jayden Daniels, our cover athlete. He's the real deal. Now we go on to our next game. The Arizona Cardinals take on the Carolina Panthers. And this is a must-win game for the Arizona Cardinals. They're 7-7 going into this game. They go to 8-7. They could be fine for that NFC West title. With the LA Rams, they could be fine for a wild card spot. They lose this game. Kyler Murray, 202 passing yards, 1 passing TD, 1 interception. He goes for 63 yards on the ground and a rushing TD. So Kyler Murray's dynamic with his legs. James Conner breaks a 40-yard run. He also finishes with 15 carries, 117 rushing yards. So that dynamic 1-2 of Conner and Murray, not as good as Hurts and Saquon, but the great value version, the bootleg version of Kyler and Murray. 23 carries, 180 rushing yards, and 2 rushing TDs. You'll gladly take that. Solid game there for them. And then receiving-wise, James Conner led the way here, surprisingly. 4 catches, 49 yards. Marvin Harrison Jr., 4 catches, 39 yards. And then Trey McBride, the dude I will always bet money to lead the team in receiving yards or receptions. Silent game here for him. 3 catches, 20 yards. And Kyler, after last week, was like, all right, I know Trey ain't get a TD. I'm going to try to get on the TD. I thought for sure Trey would get a TD this week against the Carolina Panthers. He does not. Kyler also lost a fumble this game. So some key turnovers here by Arizona. But they fought back. They were down 20-30. They fought all the way back. They made it 30-30 with a walk-off field goal at the end of regulation. That forced overtime. The Panthers get the ball first in overtime. Arizona would stop them. Arizona would then only need a field goal. They would get stopped as well. So both teams punt. Carolina, 2 plays later, Chuba Hubbard both times, 20-plus rushing yards on each carry. He finished the final drive with the walk-off TD, 49 rushing yards on that drive. And that's how the game ended. 36-30, Arizona loses a must-need game, must-win game for them. On the flip side, Carolina. It's actually better if they lose games. They could get better draft spots, but they've been losing for so much. They're happy with any win they can get. They advanced to 4-11 here. Bryce Young, 158 passing yards, 2 passing TDs. Adam Thielen and David Moore got both those TDs. Adam Thielen led the way for this team. 5 catches, 43 receiving yards, and 1 TD. Chuba Hubbard, 25 carries, 152 rushing yards, 2 rushing TDs. And Bryce Young, I didn't think he was that mobile coming out of college, but I knew he had some decent wheels. He goes for 5 carries, 68 rushing yards, and a rushing TD this game. That rushing TD was a 23-yard scramble out to the left, and then the 34-yard run was a scramble out to the right. So it both came on the same drive, 57 rushing yards on one drive by Bryce Young. So I was able to do it through the air and on the ground this game. Great game here by Carolina. Thought this game was amazing, giving it 94 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Minnesota Vikings take on the Seattle Seahawks. And what a game this was. Oh my goodness. So Geno Smith throws 2 interceptions here. Both were awful interceptions. One came early on in the game. The second one came late on the game when the Seahawks needed a game time field goal. Geno decides to throw a pass, force into coverage. Not sure him, DK Metcalf are on the same page there, but Geno finishes the game with 314 passing yards, 3 passing TDs, 2 interceptions. And then receiving wise, JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba. 8 catches, 95 receiving yards, and a receiving TD for him. And you count his rushing yards. He had 100 total yards, so 100 total yards and a TD. Always a great game for a wideout. DK Metcalf, 3 catches, 57 yards, and a TD. Kenneth Walker came back this game, but he got injured again. He got most of the workload. He finished with 8 carries, 31 rushing yards. Zach Charbonnet filled in after him. So maybe Zach Charbonnet will get the start again next week. We got to see what Kenneth Walker's injury status is. But we got to look at the flip side. Sam Darnold, 243 passing yards, 3 passing TDs. And this beautiful ball he threw, stepping up into the pocket to his left, throws it on the run, hits Justin Jefferson, for the go-ahead TD. It ended up being the game-winning TD because the Seahawks tried to kick a 60-yard field goal, with 2 minutes left. They missed the field goal. I couldn't see if it hit the upright or came short. But they missed the field goal, and then that's when they even got to stop. And then Geno got the ball back again to try to get the game-time field goal again. That's when he threw the pick. But this pass that gave the Vikings the 27-24 lead, perfect pass here by Sam Darnold. And he needs to also be in the MVP conversation, truth be told. Of course, him and Goff, I don't think will ever win it, but just go ahead and talk about it. They deserve an honorable mention, in my opinion. Especially when you compare what the Vikings are to what everybody expected them to be, 13-2. They weren't even this good when they had Kirk Cousins. Now you're like, oh, they downgraded quarterback because Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy probably aren't going to be as good as Kirk Cousins was when he was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and all that. Best season in recent memory for the Minnesota Vikings. Now we look at Justin Jefferson. Great game here for him. 10 catches, 144 receiving yards, 2 receiving TDs, and then Jordan Addison gets the other TD as well. But I want to know who you guys think the number 1 wide receiver is. Is it Jamar Chase? Is it Justin Jefferson? I think those are the top 2 names that come to mind. Jefferson, it seems like he's quarterback proof. Chase, for most of his career, been tied with Burrow. Granted, Burrow has missed some time here and there. But Jefferson, it don't matter if it's Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, Nick Mullins. I think they had C.J. Beathard or whatever. It doesn't matter. Justin Jefferson, week in, week out, plays at a high level. And then Aaron Jones led the way for them on the ground, 18 carries, 67 rushing yards. So, 27-24 game, must-win game for both teams. I thought this game was amazing. I'm giving it a 94 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the New England Patriots take on the Buffalo Bills. And what a game this was. A pleasant shocker. I thought the Bills were going to rout this team in an easy win. The New England Patriots take a 14-0 lead. The Bills fight back. They tied the game up early in the third quarter. They take a 24-14 lead. And then they run out the clock. The Patriots get a TD late to make it 21-24. But then the Bills are able to run out the clock and win by 3. So, game had some crazy runs here. We're going to start with the MVP candidate, Josh Allen. Cooled off this game. He's been on a tear the past 3 weeks. He has cooled off after getting that cover athlete. The cover athlete curse might be real. He's our cover athlete last week. We're going to see what Jayden Daniels does next week against Atlanta in a must-win game for both those teams. But Josh Allen, 154 passing yards here, 1 passing TD, 1 interception. He gets 30 rushing yards on the ground, but James Cook breaks another long TD run, 46 rushing yards here, 11 carries, 100 yards, and 1 TD. I think James Cook is underrated because you look at a yard per carry standpoint, he's right up there with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. But the reason why his rushing yards are up there is because they just use so many running backs here, and they don't give him that large workload. But James Cook even led the way for them in the receiving department. Granted, it wasn't much. He had 3 catches, 26 yards, and a receiving TD. But he did have the most receiving yards for this team. Now we go look at the Patriots on the flip side. Drake May, 2 passing TDs, 1 interception, 261 passing yards. He continues to impress. Kayshon Boutte was the number 1 wide receiver. This game had 5 catches, 95 yards, and a TD for him. I mean, they really don't have a number 1 wideout. They probably don't have a number 2 wideout, but doesn't matter. No, Drake May still goes out there and he performs. Had even 30 rushing yards on the ground. So, he's a dual threat quarterback. If they can get them a dynamic wide receiver in the draft like Ted McMillan or even Travis Hunter, and you could play him at wideout. You could even play him some snaps at corner, whatever the case may be. The sky's the limit for this Drake May guy. I really like this rookie a lot. And Ramondre Stevenson leads the way for them on the ground. 12 carries, 60 rushing yards, and a rushing TD. Overall, though, I thought this was a good game, giving it a 73 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the Jacksonville Jaguars take on the Oakland Raiders. I'm talking about rookies with Drake May, who I like a lot. Let's talk about this wide receiver I like a lot at Jacksonville, Brian Thomas Jr. He goes for 9 catches, 132 yards, and a receiving TD, including a 62-yard TD score he gets, where he just gets wide open down the left sideline. And Watson, I got this man in Dynasty, so I might have this man in one of my fantasy football leagues for the next 10-plus years. I am ecstatic. I feel like I just drafted Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I got this man in my money league. I'm still ecstatic. I feel like I just drafted Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson. I just don't know what it is, but I love this man so much. It gave them the lead at the time. They ended up losing that lead and lost the game overall 14-19. But he is amazing wideout. Can run a full route tree. He's 6'3", 4.3 speed, great hands, high points the ball, elusive enough after the catch. All right, let me stop salivating over this man. We talk about the other guy. We got Tank Bigsby here. He goes for 12 carries, 50 rushing yards, and a rushing TD. And then Mac Jones, of course, filling in for Trevor Lawrence after he got concussed. And Trevor Lawrence is probably out for the season now since they're 3-12 and they had no chance of making the playoffs. And they should kind of be wanting to lose games. Mac Jones, solid game here, 247 passing yards and a passing TD. He doesn't turn the ball over, so you gotta lower your standard for some people, but doesn't turn the ball over. You take that. Unfortunately, Tank Bigsby and Brenton Strange did turn the ball over. They both fumbled, and those were deciding factors in the game. But we go look at the Raiders on the flip side. Aiden O'Connell, 257 passing yards, no passing TDs, but you'll take 257 passing yards for him and no turnovers. Most of those passing yards went to Brock Bowers. He had 11 catches, 99 receiving yards. And then on the ground, Alexander Madison, Amir Abdullah both get a rushing TD. Now, I thought this game between two teams not very competitive. It kind of benefit the teams to lose the game since they're both 3-12 after the Raiders won. The Raiders got the tiebreaker. So winning this game actually hurt the Raiders more than anything. I thought it was a good game. I'm giving it a 72 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next game, which is the San Francisco 49ers take on the Miami Dolphins. Must-win game for both teams. They find themselves at 6-8, trying to fight for a wild card spot. The Dolphins end up winning this game. Tua goes for 215 passing yards and a passing TD. Devon Achane, 17 carries, 120 rushing yards, and a rushing TD. That rushing TD was a 50-yard TD run that iced the game. It's 22-17. The Niners needed to get a stop, get the ball back, and go for the game-winning TD. Devon Achane ices the game. He breaks loose a 50-yard TD run down the right sideline. Devon Achane also led this team in the receiving department. He had 6 catches for 70 receiving yards, so a total of 190 total yards for this guy. And a TD. Great game here by Devon Achane. Now we go look at the 49ers. Brock Purdy, 313 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, 1 interception. He leads the team on the ground department. 4 carries, 26 rushing yards. They had Patrick Taylor, 8 carries, 24 rushing yards. I expected for him to do okay here. I didn't think he was a great running back or anything, but no Garendo, no Jordan Mason, no McCaffrey, of course. Patrick Taylor was the next man up, madly inefficient. And the Niners season is pretty much all but over. Kittle did lead the way for this team, 8 catches, 106 yards. But Deebo Samuel, I got to highlight him. He's been having an abysmal year for the most part. He had the best game of the season after having that drop TD last week. He comes back 7 catches, 96 yards of receiving TD. And also had 5 carries for 25 yards on the ground. So over 100 scrimmage yards for him. Great bounce back game here for Deebo, but it wasn't enough. The Dolphins win 29-17, what I thought was a really good game, giving it a 79 out of 100. Now we're going on to our next one, which is the Sunday night game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys are trying to fight for a playoff spot, sneakily enough. They won this game 26-24. So the Buccaneers lost this game. They needed to win this game to, solidify their NFC South title hold. They didn't win it. Baker Mayfield, 303 passing yards, 2 passing TDs, 1 interception. Bucky Irving, 16 carries, 68 rushing yards, 1 TD. Baker even gave you 42 rushing yards on the ground on 3 carries. If you look at Mike Evans, 69 receiving yards. That's under the threshold he needs. So he's going to need these next 2 weeks got to be really big for him to go get 1,000 receiving yards on the year. But the rookie wide receiver, Jalen McMillan, 5 catches, 57 receiving yards, and a TD. He's been playing really good. Since he returned from his injury. It looks like he could be the number 2 wide receiver next year. If they do decide to let Chris Godwin go, they bring Chris Godwin back. Jalen McMillan is your 3rd wide receiver. Seems like a great thing to have, especially with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin getting older and stuff. He could continue to learn behind those guys and eventually maybe even become the number 1 wide receiver for this team. But the Buccaneers lose this game because of a Rashad White fumble that came on the final play of the game. The Bucs need to march down the field and get the game with a field goal. Baker, Superman, breaking tackles, breaking sacks, flips the ball to Rashad White. Rashad White catches it, and Deron Bland big boys this guy. The ultimate playmaker, Deron Bland, strips him, and they get the fumble, and that's how the Cowboys win this game. Now for the Cowboys stats. Cooper Rush, 292 passing yards, 1 passing TD. Really good game here by Cooper Rush. Rico Dowdle, first time in a long time this guy did not have a great game. 13 carries, 23 rushing yards. And then CeeDee Lamb leads the way for the Cowboys. 7 catches, 105 receiving yards. Now, the Cowboys let this game wire to wire, but I still thought it was an amazing game because the Buccaneers were never out of it at any point. I'm giving this one a 91 out of 100. And now we're going on to our Monday night game, which was an absolute massacre. The New Orleans Saints take on the Green Bay Packers, a dome team going up north in Lambeau, cold weather game. And the Packers completely violated. They gave a rushing TD to all their running backs. Josh Jacobs, you get a rushing TD. At halftime, we're not going to carry you. You don't even got to play in the second half, Josh Jacobs. Emmanuel Wilson, you go get you a rushing TD. Chris Brooks, you go get you a rushing TD. This game was over at halftime. The final score was 34-0. I'm not even going to talk about the Saints stats. They don't deserve it. Spencer Rattler got the start. That's all you need to know. Jordan Love, 182 passing yards and a TD. Malik Willis filled in, had 34 passing yards on 2 pass attempts. Jayden Lee led the team in receiving yards, 3 catches, 76 receiving yards, and Dontavius Wicks got the 1 receiving TD. Now, if you guys want to see a worst 25 games of the year, let me know down below in the comment section. I will get that ready and start planning that video. But that will conclude this video. So as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. I hope to see you guys on the next one.